back to the Midday Reset. My name is Antoinette, and today I want to talk to you about mourning. And no, I don't mean that early part of the day, but the other kind that includes a U in the spelling and often is associated with loss. I was speaking to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and she explained to me that she and her partner had been in mourning over all of the injustice and stories of mistreatment that they were seeing in the news and just things that were coming to light that they had not been aware of before and that they were horrified by. She said that they were mourning, and I thought that that was a really interesting way to describe such a phenomenon, such a feeling, because I think that part of what we are struggling with in 2020 is everyone knows that they're feeling something, but nobody really knows what to call it yet. I mean, yeah, it's frustration, but some of it is also fear. And some of it is also boredom. You know, people are stuck inside and they're ready to get out and be active. Some of it is curiosity because as people have spent their time uh, sheltering in place and socially distancing, they've had more time to reflect on themselves and the things that really matter to them. And I know that for myself, I am somebody who very much prioritizes being able to travel in the future. I always knew that, there was a whole big wide world out there and that I was free to go and discover it whenever I wanted to. But I don't think I ever felt a sense of urgency to go and do those things, to go exploring and to just go to places that were different from where I am from so that I can have an experience with that because so often people will say that they have beautiful experiences traveling to foreign countries, and I would like to see what that's like, and I would also like to share that with my family, specifically my children. So, right now, I would argue that there's also a population of people who are feeling just intense enthusiasm and high energy for all of the things that they want to be able to do now that they've had these realizations and they've reprioritized their lives. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we can't really do anything with it just yet because traveling, even though there are still plenty of destinations that are open and allowing American travelers admission, but it's still hit or miss just exactly what you'll be able to do there because the pandemic changes from day to day. I mean, sometimes it starts early in the morning and it's looking like numbers are going to be slightly lower. We're seeing a trend, and then all of a sudden, maybe information comes in about a spike, and suddenly now we're seeing tons of patients coming in the latter part of the day. And it's like, okay, well, here we go again. We haven't really moved on any real consistent path other than the fact that COVID cases have continued to rise. And so it's really difficult to predict anything like that. And that makes it difficult to travel, I think. So, we have people who are caught up in all of these different types of emotions. And I think tied to it is the great sense of loss that we have right now with the way that our society and our world had to change as a result of the pandemic. Certain businesses have closed and they will never come back. We have seen prominent figures pass away from this disease. And I don't know, something about seeing those kinds of stories because it puts a face to it. I mean, when we hear COVID-19, we know that that's something that's serious. We know it's dangerous. We know that it has claimed lives, but I don't know that COVID-19 really became anything truly tangible to me until I started seeing the photographs of people who had died from it and hearing their stories. That's when it really started to resonate with me that this thing is no joke because it will take a Broadway actor who is a happy father to a young infant and a happy husband to a beautiful wife. It will take politicians. It will take the old. It will take the young. It will take Black people, white people, Asian people, Latino. It will take anyone. And so, I think that the abysmal nature of that also has us just kind of feeling just lost and foggy and unsure, unclear, uncertain. And The fact that my friend was able to akin this to mourning, I think was just brilliant. And I want to talk about that today because I think that as we search for ways to cope with what is happening in our world, all of these rapid changes and just wildly new ways of being that most of us, have not been exposed to before, as we do these things, I think that it's important that we have the necessary release so that we are processing through our emotions in a healthy way, and so that we are not carrying around the burdens of this time period long, long after it's over. Now, some of that's going to be inevitable, I think. I think that just when you have something on this scale that's going to last for a prolonged period of time like this, the idea of people carrying residual effects from it years later, I mean, that's pretty likely. But, trying to keep that at as much of a minimum as possible. I think that it's important to let yourself mourn. I know for me, something that's been helpful is I let myself just sit and cry when I feel overcome with emotion. Through this pandemic, I've discovered that I might be an empath. I think I am. I need to take my friend's quiz. I have a really great friend. Her name is Patrice, and she actually has a quiz that she's offering to help people figure out if they are empaths or not. And I need to take her quiz. But when I see these headlines about people who have died, and when I see headlines about explosions and just utter chaos happening all over the world due to sporadic events of just shocking circumstances, I mean, today is September 12th. So that means that the anniversary of the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center here in the United States, the anniversary of that was yesterday, and that was 19 years after the event. I remember the utter shock and horror that the world had at what had just happened with these attacks, because it was something that was not commonplace. It's not normal for such destruction to take place and such loss of life, grand loss of life to take place. But here we are 19 years in the future, and it seems like those events are happening more and more often. And I have to say that all of the emotional dust that gets all over you after you see stuff like that, I think it's still getting on us. It's just we're not paying as much attention because we're kind of desensitized at this point. It happens so often that there's some kind of a shooting or a riot and people were hurt, or someone drove a car through a crowd, or someone detonated a bomb somewhere or was planning to, or just you name it. And much like we did after September 11th, after the Boston Marathon bombing, after the Sandy Hook shooting, after any of these tragedies, in the same way, we can mourn right now. I think it's good to mourn. I think it's good to let yourself feel some things if that's what you want to do and release them. I know it feels good to me to cry, feels good to journal, and my journal is private. So the things that I'm thinking, the things that I'm feeling, they are not open for public consumption when I put them into my journal. And so that's a very safe space for me. But it lets me get some things out. And then that way I can kind of take a breath and start to process my way over them so that I can move into the next piece of reality, the next moment, so to speak. But I highly recommend that you give yourself an opportunity to do that too. If you are someone who is in therapy, first of all, kudos. Second of all, stick with it. And if you're finding that you're not getting what you are looking for, then don't be afraid to look for a different provider. Oftentimes, therapists work within a practice where there's at least 4 or 5 others who are working within the group. Not all of them do this, but a lot of them do. And so if you feel that you might connect with someone else who is in the office better, then by all means, don't be shy about that, because that is a huge part of making therapy successful, is being able to connect with your provider. And it's not that if you can't connect with them, they are somehow a bad person or anything like that, or that you're failing at therapy. That's not it. It's just that your personalities are not compatible for the type of work that you need to do, and you have to find somebody who's personality is compatible with yours so that the work will be meaningful. That's all that means. But by all means, continue going, continue supporting yourself, keep loving yourself, keep putting yourself first, give yourself those breaks, protect your energy. And if you feel like you need to cry, go ahead and cry. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's so nice to have people who I can share some dialogue with through the pandemic, through all of the changes. And I am just so honored that you have taken time out of your schedule to listen to me for a few moments. So thank you so much. You can reach me at Antoinette at middayreset.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Midday Reset, also at Miss Antoinette Chanel. As always, be well, my friends, and I will see you next time.